Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Chester Rules Chambers Intergovernmental Relations and Strategy Committee meeting for Monday, August 19th, 2024. As far as roll call concerned, we're all here. Roots, West, and Green. Any public comment? Seeing or hearing none, let's get right into the reason that we're here. Commissioner?
Mayor Roots, Councilwoman West, Councilman Green, thank you for meeting with me today. Commissioner Gretzky and I have been working on this just in regards to the civil service. I'm going to thank you guys for taking the time to meet with us today, and I also thank you for making yourselves available on such short notice. I know I talked to you guys late at the end of last week, so I appreciate you guys making yourself some time. Thank you to Assistant City Clerk for printing out all the information for us, and I'll just kind of go through step by step what we've got here, what it is that we are going to be discussing today, what we're not going to be discussing today, and kind of just gathering all the correct information. So to start with, the only thing we're going to be talking about today is Article 133 in the City Codified Ordinances, which covers civil service. We're not going to be discussing anything else. Everything else that's referenced is for information and for information only. Okay, so to start up at the state level, okay, Act 67, which is amending Title 11, which is third-class city code within there, it basically outlines that cities are required, municipalities are required to establish a civil service board in order for the hiring and for the appointment and the promotions of uniformed personnel within third-class cities, so police and fire departments. Okay, so that's the summary of the 7 pages when it comes down to civil service in third-class city code. And the way that municipalities are supposed to do this is they're supposed to appoint a civil service commission made up by 3 residents. And those 3 residents create rules and regulations for the appointment and promotion of uniformed personnel. Okay? Now, when you come down to the city level, in our city charter also outlines, hey, mayor and council, you guys need to establish a commission. The charter identifies it as a commission. The state identifies it as a board, so we're going to call it a civil service commission because that's what the city identifies it as a commission. And they're basically saying, mayor, council, you guys need to establish a commission for the appointment, for a commission for the appointment of uniformed personnel, again, i.e. police and fire. That's everything that's covered in the Home Rule Charter. The last time the ordinance was visited was in the late 60s, early 70s. And it says, all right, we're going to establish 3 separate boards for the hiring of personnel within the city through civil service. The one board will be for health employees. Okay, so back in the 1960s, late 60s, early 70s, the city said we need to have a civil service board for the hiring of health employees. Well, they're not uniformed personnel. They also said, hey, we need to have a commission for engineers. Well, engineers aren't uniformed personnel, so we don't necessarily need to have a commission for them. They also say, hey, we need to have a commission for paid firemen. Firemen, not firefighters. Okay, so just even in that, you know, that was the language that was used back in the day because firefighters were men, but that's not the case today in the 21st century. It also doesn't spell out anything about having a commission for police officers. So while we do have it for half of our uniformed force, we don't have it for the other half of our uniformed force. Okay? Now, that is the topic of discussion today is this Article 133. I was going to say, if you want to set the current article on the side, just so we can kind of move on, and I want, again, a lot more information here, but I'd rather be thorough than not thorough. But if you'll look, you'll see 2 resolutions that were passed in 1990 and 1993. Okay, so you'll see 2 resolutions.
This one.
I see the 1990. Oh, 93. Okay.
Yeah,
they're both
Yep.
here.
Yeah, they're both here. So if you look through them, I want you to look through them, but I'm gonna give you the clip notes on them. The one addresses firefighters, the other one addresses police officers. Other than that, they're basically the same. They're basically verbatim, word for word. Okay, but it's just that one addresses firefighters, one addresses police officers. You will notice, however, though, and I'd like you guys to go to page, let's call it page 5.
Page 5 of which one?
Page 5 of either resolution, because again, they're verbatim. And we're going to talk about section 306. And again, one's for the police department, one's for the fire department. And I'm just going to read off to you, all right, the issue. So it says, every male eligible for the position within the city shall demonstrate his ability to pass the following physical examination within 1 month prior to appointment. They have to be aged 21 to 35. Their height, weight, blood pressure, chest expansion shall fall within the following limits. They should have minimum and maximum weights. They should have, certain educational requirements. What I'm demonstrating with these two resolutions is that there are multiple violations of federal EEOC laws.
Yeah, this is like discrimination.
It is discrimination, and it was identified in the city's fire study that not only the civil service rules, but the application itself is a lawsuit waiting to happen, and we need to change this. And the way we change this is by updating our ordinance, updating Article 133, reestablishing our Civil Service Commission so that they can draft new rules and regulations to submit to mayor and council for your guys' approval, and to make sure that those rules and regulations meet all federal, state, and local laws when it comes to hiring. Even when I was in discussions with Mayor Roots, there is a question on the application that have you ever been convicted of a crime that is against the law? It should be something to the effect of, have you ever been convicted of a crime that would prohibit you from taking this job? Look, if you were 18 years old and you got arrested for marijuana, does that really preclude you as a 25-year-old from serving as a police officer or firefighter? No, not at all. We need to bring these things up to the modern times. But step one of this process is to update Article 133. I just wanted to show you guys that these rules, these are the issues that these rules, we have with these rules, and that we need to update this article so we can reestablish the board, and then we can get these rules and regulations updated.
Okay,
That's
let's,
step 2. We need to get to step 1.
all right.
And with that, I've rambled on. I wish I had a little bottle of water that I can drink right now while I
Just want to make this super clear.
yes.
The establishment of the commission will determine, the commission will determine the rules that need to be updated. It's not council.
That is correct.
So the board, the council doesn't have to vote on it, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. Actually, you guys are the gatekeepers. Once these rules and regulations are updated, they bring them to you and say, hey, these are what we think. It's up to you guys to vote yes or no on those rules. And you can say, hey, we don't like these rules, take them back, rework them.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just
so
want
you
to,
guys still are,
I
you
want
guys
to
are
be
still the
clear
major
on that.
players.
Yeah, but first, the commission has to be established.
Yes, the commission, it's the commission's responsibility to, and it's spelled out, if you look at 144 of the state law, it says the board will establish rules and regulations, basically adopted by or approved by mayor, I think it's approved by mayor and council. So you guys have the ultimate say. You guys have the final say for rules and regulations. Your job is not to create them, but your job is to approve them. And much what I'm doing here and advising you guys as a committee, I would like to do the same thing when we have the Civil Service Commission. I'd like to present with them, hey, here are the rules from 1993. All right, here's what modern day rules look like in terms of this has been vetted by human resources professionals who know all of the laws. This is what our recommendations are. And again, they can take those recommendations and use them. They can change them around. We can only offer input as to, yes, this is a good idea, or no, this is not a good idea. At that point, they will bring it to mayor and council, and you guys will vote on it
it say anywhere what
Use the-
that board,
Use the mic, use the mic.
does it say anywhere what that board is supposed to look like, who are we looking for to be on the board? What's the requirements for being on the Civil Service Commission?
That's a very good question, Councilwoman. As the state laws had, it's just they require that be 3 residents of the city. And much like you guys do other appointments to other boards, my recommendation would be is that you guys say, hey, we've established a Civil Service Commission, you guys take applications from city residents, and then you guys discuss amongst yourselves, who you want to appoint to the commission or who you don't want to appoint to the commission.
Well, why don't you just read it from 13302? Your proposed
For
language.
the draft? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also say this too, we do have 5 members that are already appointed to the current Civil Service Commission, and we're going to allow them to serve out their term. And if they would like to be reappointed and they want to stay, that's up to you guys.
I think there are 4 on there.
Is it 4? Okay.
It's 3, somewhere Cerise said it's supposed to be 5 people in here. 3 on the, now, here we go, it's commission and this board. When you read those rules and regulations and all that, they intertwine. 1 minute it's a board, then it says mayor and council is the board. And another minute it says mayor and council is commission, so that needs to be cleared out also. But it's 3, and then it was 2 alternatives. One of the board members dropped.
Okay.
And you're right, that does need to be determined, because at one time, when I was under the Butler administration, mayor and council, we were the board, and we were doing the hearings.
Is there,
I remember one in particular, you weren't here, Commissioner, but it was the police, and we sat in on that.
That's the interview panel.
No, it wasn't an interview panel. I know the difference.
Oh, okay. No, I know that you said on interview, but I didn't know there was hearings. Thank you.
It was a situation, and we had to make a determination.
Okay.
is firefighters and police allowed on the board? As long as they're a resident, or is it you can't have fire and police on the
No,
board?
to be honest, I think 2 of the current board members are retired. I think one's a retired police commissioner and one's a retired fire commissioner.
Well, hold on before we go any further.
Okay.
I'm going to name the 5 that we have listed. Can you tell me which one you think is not there?
Thomas.
Okay, Travis Thomas. Gotcha.
Well, there goes the retired fire.
Retired fire.
But I also think there's another one.
Morris, but he's
Morris.
an alternate. He's retired, fire. And
We got
the other name on
Rick Dennis, Martha Newman,
regular residents.
William Jacobs, Joe Morris.
Joe Morris is the other retired firefighter, and, I was the past council.
So if the board is already established, but we're voting to reestablish the board, or we're reappointing them?
No, we're doing either. We're updating the article to get rid of basically health and.
Fire,
Health
engineers,
and engineers.
right.
Establish police, and even at the end of the draft, at the end of the proposed new article, it says, hey, look, if these board members want to continue to serve on the board, they're allowed to continue to serve on the commission. I'm going to use board and commission interchangeably. They're allowed to serve until the end of their appointment, and if they're reappointed, they're reappointed, and then they can continue to serve. So I'm not even looking to change the board.
Mhm.
I want to get the process, we need to get step 1 done so we can get to step 2 to change the rules of regs, so it's inclusive of.
When is the last time this board met, you know?
I have absolutely no idea.
Anybody know?
They've never met.
They've never met.
What they do, as I know it, whenever there's we have people who are coming in to interview, do they interview them along with you?
Interview who?
The applicants, new applicants coming in?
No, mayor and
Oh, they
council
do
said
testing?
They do testing.
Okay, just the testing part?
They did testing.
Okay.
And just for clarity, what is the purpose of this board?
The purpose of the board is to establish the rules and
Okay, so the board's job is to only establish rules and regulations.
That's correct.
And once they're established, then what?
Then whatever is outlined in the rules and regulations is the process that will be used for the hiring, or for the appointment and promotion.
I'm saying, then what happens to the board? They don't meet anymore, they
Well,
just,
they meet regularly. I'd have to go through and read a little bit more. But they can meet regularly. They can say, hey, we want to change this rule, we want to take away this rule, we want to add on this rule. They basically, they handle the rules and regulations for the appointment. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be a part of it.
They're not.
It's so much that I want to say that I would rather meet with y'all.
I mean, let's say it now while we're here, please. I mean, I'm trying to understand it. I don't fully understand this, so I'm trying to get as much information as I
Okay,
can.
so what, not too long ago, what happened,
Get your mic, please.
I'm going back, sir.
And
Everybody in the world, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. I'd rather not, because it's, to y'all, I guess. Do I have to say my name and all that? So, not last year, but possibly the year before that, Cerise Dixon was here. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what her job title was. She was moved from the police station.
chief of staff.
And then she was the chief of staff at the
That
police
mic
station.
is not up.
And then she was moved over here. I don't know what her title was. Brought to our attention that the civil service board is supposed to be a member of 5 persons. 3 being a chairman, vice chair, and it's someone else, and then 2 alternatives. But then you have a secretary of that board also, which had been the city clerk's position. I don't know what discussion, I don't know where she saw or how this came about. She was saying that it shouldn't, somebody on the board probably should have been the secretary, and they should be the ones that putting the tests all together, and what the city clerk was actually doing, like the application process.
It's on.
It's on?
Was that the prior city clerk before you?
No, as I had the position.
There it goes.
Okay,
It was being said that someone on that board is actually should be the secretary,
okay,
and that they should be the one with the application process, or whatever the city clerk was doing the applications, setting up the interviews and all that. So at that time, I was like, okay, whoever it belongs to, they can have it. Some kind of way it came back to me, because now you have to think about people's personal information was on those applications and stuff, and if we turn it over to them, they taking it home,
right.
you know, so then it, you remember, you
Right.
know what I'm talking about, so it got dropped, and I ended up back with it. So it's a lot going on with civil service that takes more than just probably this meeting to discuss.
Needs to be structured.
Right, and I picked up this position in 2011. Civil service, I actually started doing in 2012 because Sarah Bignier at the time was she was a consultant for civil service because she was the city clerk but leaving. When I got it, I just followed behind what they had been doing past practice and moved it forward.
Right.
But now, it's a whole lot to this that's different. So even with that, are we removing, I don't, again, you probably have to ask Cerise where she saw that information from, as somebody on that board supposed to be being the secretary. As far as I've been in this, as long as I've been in this position, the board has never met as a whole to discuss anything. They were only notified when it was time to give the examinations.
They have to be given instruction.
Yeah, and I wasn't given it.
They
yeah.
have to be notified as to what, that's why I said, you know, what does this board look like? What should they be doing, and what's the criteria by putting somebody on the board? What, you know, what should it look like?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Just to give you my input on this, for the board members, what I would do first is to reach out to them and see if they're still interested in being in the position. Obviously, here, Commissioner Shirley, from his point, Kansas has given her input. So this is a time that we can reestablish this, and when it comes to like policy and procedure, when they become outdated, when do you revisit it? And that's why I think this is the ground point that we start today. I don't know when their terms expire, but the first thing I would do is send out a letter, have some kind of communication to see if they're not, and then have an interview process, possibly put it out, and for you guys to be a part of it, maybe we start a new board. But the only interaction that I've had with the Civil Service Board is only at promotion test and testing, and that's it. I mean, and I think that's an issue.
What did they do at the promotion test and testing?
They monitor the test,
Okay,
and
so
they
the
grade,
board
and they grade the
monitors
test. Yeah, they monitor and help grade the test.
and grade the test.
Yep.
And one is an educator.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and back to what Candace was saying in terms of the secretary, that's spelled out in the rules and regulations. Who's to be the secretary and all those other things. And again, the rules and regulations, the board members, that's step 2. I'm just giving you the background information as to why we need to update Article 133, that's step 1, so that we can either use the board that's already in place if their terms expire, but we need to change it from the health and the engineers to the uniform personnel. And then we can start on step 2, which is the rules and regulations.
Okay, and this is the new proposed one?
Yes, the draft is the new proposal.
Okay.
Wasn't long.
This one seems short compared to this one.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that. Oh, yeah, no, we never turned down anyone just because they didn't meet the civil service rules. Yeah, no, we never discriminated. But even, back to the discussion of even the application itself needs to be updated, because there are some inconsistencies on there that shouldn't be.
Okay. So, well, this goes into the question that I asked, if police and fire, someone from there can be on the board. In this new draft, it says no officer, official, or employee shall be eligible for appointment to the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission.
And that's consistent with state law.
Okay, so they can't serve.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
You said they cannot, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that was the question I had asked earlier, if they was able to be on the board.
I have a question. So are they the commission or are they the board?
Here it says commission.
Right, and to the earlier discussion, this third-class city code at the state level, in the state law, it's a civil service board. However, in the city's home rule charter, it's a civil service commission. So we're entitling it the Civil Service Commission so that we're compliant with our home rule charter, or we are identifying it the way that the home rule charter says. But you can, basically, board, commission are interchangeable.
Doesn't
But
state
the official title.
supersede the city's charter?
I'm sorry?
Doesn't the state supersede the city charter?
I would say, I don't know. I would have to check with legal on that. I do know that we are a commonwealth, so it's typically the lowest form of government. And realistically, we're just talking about whether to call it a commission or a board. I could call it a board, I just want to stick with what's in our home rule charter because it's us. We could call it a civil service board, board, commission, tomato, tomato.
Like Councilwoman West is saying, in the past, they was problem with the commission and sat in on a hearing, whereas, I would say, city clerk and that's whatever was the.
part of the board.
part of the board. So that's what I'm saying, is in front of you, you got, it's either one or the other. They're gonna be the commission, and you got a board, or they're gonna be the board, and they're gonna be the commission. And then it's gonna be confusing, because if you think about a commission, then it means the commission is the people that you be sitting with the test. The way
No.
we got a little confused.
I don't understand any of that. That's fine.
It makes sense to me. Civil Service Board, okay, they would be meeting and making determinations and proposing suggestions to the mayor and council, which would be acting as a commission. Is that what you're saying, Commissioner?
What's that?
I said the people on the Civil Service Board would be the ones who meet, and they make a determination as to what changes, proposing changes to go into our ordinance or whatever, and then it comes to the mayor and council, right? And we would be serving as the commission over that matter, wouldn't we? No, I'm asking.
No, not to my knowledge.
No?
Not to
The way
mine.
I'm understanding it, the way it's in the, if you said it, if I'm hearing right, third-class city code is saying they are the commission, which are
Yeah.
persons from the public. Is that what you said, right?
I'm sorry, he was
In
whispering
the
my ear.
third-class city code, is it saying that the persons from the public, let's say, are the commission?
No,
I misunderstood you, I'm sorry.
no. And again, I don't know if there's just confusion with the boards and the commission's titles. The third-class city code says municipalities have to establish a board for civil service for the appointment and promotions of uniformed personnel. Okay, so, and that board should be comprised of 3 city residents. Those 3 city residents establish rules and regulations for the hiring of uniformed personnel.
All right, so they're the board,
That's,
to me, they will be the commission.
okay, well, let's just continue with this thought real fast, and then before we get down there.
I misunderstood something.
Okay,
Ms. Martha and all of them are still considered the board.
well,
Not according to
who's
this
Miss,
draft.
who's Miss Martha?
Ms. Newman, they're on the board now.
So let me just understand. So are you trying to say that there, somehow in the charter, it says that mayor and council should either be the board or commission, and the 3 residents should be either the board or commission?
Right, because when you,
That's,
What would our purpose be?
can I just finish my thought, because I'd like to spell it out, okay?
Just confused.
Third-class city code. Municipalities are responsible, mayor and council are responsible for creating boards for civil service for the hirement of uniformed personnel. So that's the state mandate, okay? Mayor and council, you guys create a board that will establish rules and regulations, all right? Now, when you look at the city charter says, mayor and council, I want you to establish a civil service commission. So the state's calling it a board, the charter's calling it a commission. But either way, you guys need to form some type of body to establish rules and regulations for the hiring of uniformed personnel, okay? Now,
Oh, well, I think that's clear. I mean, I get it. I just want to add one piece, like, the word board, the word commission, in this case, aren't 2 different functions. They are the same thing that go by 2 different names on 2 different documents. So,
but I would like to further clarify.
Please do.
Yeah. So, Article 133 is saying, this is the law of civil service. You need to have a board for health, engineers, and firemen. And what I'm saying is, we don't need one for health, we don't need one for engineers, we do need one for firefighters, and we also do need one for police officers. All right? So that's where we update this. That's all this is doing, is we're going to have a commission for firemen and police, and that commission should be made up of 3 city residents.
And
Right.
just one, not separate.
What's that?
Just one commission, not 2.
Yep, just one commission for uniformed personnel, police, fire, covered under the same thing. that commission will then form rules and regulations of what needs to be done in order for those police and firefighters to be hired. They're going to take those rules together, they're going to present it to mayor and council, and you guys vote on whether you like those rules or you don't like those rules. What we'd like to do, though, is from the human resources standpoint aside, hey, look, in the rules and regulations, you want to make sure you're not requiring someone to be a male. You're not requiring them to be between 21 and 35. We want to make sure all those rules and regulations meet current federal, state, and local laws when it comes to hiring. So that's
Will the application match up with the same?
100%. And Councilwoman, you actually bring up a pretty funny point. When you look at the current rules and regulations, some of the crazy questions that are asked on the current application are the things out of 1993. One of them is like, what are your hobbies? It's like, who cares what your hobbies are? I like bird watching. Does that matter, if I can be a police or a firefighter?
And even on our applications for employment with the city, I think it has questions on there about being, whether or not you've been convicted of a crime. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's been changed or not, but it's on there.
Yeah, and that needs to change. I think there's like financial status, like there's just questions that are completely inappropriate. But step one, like I said, is just Article 133. And then once we get those 3 people, whether we use the 3 people that are currently in place, or they might be like, look, we haven't met in 15 years, we don't want to be a part of it anymore. That's when you guys would basically say, hey, anyone interested in being a part of the Civil Service Commission, they'll submit applications, you guys vet them, you figure who you think is best for that commission, and then we'll work with them to come up with new rules and regulations that reflect modern-day best practices. And Commissioner Gretzky has done a majority of the lead work where he's talked with other third-class cities and gotten their rules and regulations so we can kind of use it as a template. No reason to reinvent the wheel.
I got probably two questions, one in particular. If we were to take over ambulance service here in the city, the people who would staff the ambulances, the paramedics or whatever, would that be under the fire department? Would that be another version of a uniformed?
Very good question, Mayor.
Person.
It depends. It depends on how you want to set it up. If we want to set up a separate EMS branch where it's a completely separate department, an EMS department, we could require them to be uniform or not. I mean, even though they're uniformed, they don't fall under the definition of third-class city code as police and fire. So we might not have to go through a civil service process, and we could just hire, hey, as long as you're an EMT, we can hire. If we were to, and just because I would like to see it with the fire department, create an EMS division of the fire department, then I would have to imagine that civil service rules would apply. But that's something that I would definitely consult with the city solicitor, before we do that.
My other question is this McGrath Consulting Group
Yes.
piece that you threw in here.
Yes.
And I don't have to look at it now, but it lays out all the things that are wrong on the application and why.
Is that,
Where did this come from?
This was the fire study that was commissioned by the city.
oh, okay, I see this.
So if you turn to page 53, you'll see. the things that
This
are
section
currently
covers a
in the
lot of
application
issues that are
and why
not only
we should
with
have
the
it on there.
Okay.
with the application process, but even there's some current things
Looks like
that
this.
that are already in place that might need to be addressed. There was a brief,
That's it. So that was the end.
yeah, page 53 now, for the application.
So that's a really good detailed look at things I would have never thought of.
All of this is on the application?
Yeah, and if you feel like it's difficult to read those two resolutions from 1990 and 1993, I believe, but if you read through the certain sections, it says you should ask this on the application, and like hobbies is one of them. Yeah, it's just, I guess for 1990, 1993, it was okay, but that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So the change of this application, that would be the commission that would
No.
spearhead that? No.
Nope.
HR,
HR would do that.
okay.
So HR has the specialists, they're knowledgeable. That's their job, is to know all the current laws, what should be on an application, what shouldn't be on an application. So they're the ones that should develop the application. The minimum requirement of what is needed in order for someone to say, hey, I'm interested in this job. And we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit now, but once the new rules and regulations are established, there'll be the point in time to where, hey, we're going to apply, we're going to test. If you pass the test, what are the next steps? Whether it be interviews, background checks, things of that nature. But even on some of the initial application right now, one of the concerns that was raised in the city fire study was that they're giving background information on people that we might not even have to do background checks for. So why should I divulge basically everything for you to find out everything about me if I don't even pass the test? You don't need my permission to run a background if I don't pass the test.
Right.
So
What is the relevance for residency? That's being questioned on this document. I know in the past, administrations had looked at, not to discriminate against people who don't live here, but we felt, especially with police and fire, that it would be more of a commitment if we get someone from our community to take these jobs. You know what we've always said about that.
Councilwoman, a funny little side story. The first class that I was ever in charge of, a recruit class, were 5 city residents, and I've overseen 3 classes since then. And I still say that the guys from the city were the best class I ever had. I had no headaches. They were top of the class. They were great guys. So love to get more people in here. Residency shouldn't be required. We should welcome all to apply, but that would also kind of come into the discussion of, I know what Philly does is they get points. So anyone who lives in the city gets 10 extra points. Yeah, so there, within the rules and regulations, we can establish something to where I don't necessarily, we can say, we can give preferential treatment. Like if you're number 1 on the list and you live outside of the city and I'm number 2 and I live inside the city, we can't say, we're just going to get rid of number 1 on the list.
No,
But
I'm not saying that.
Oh, yeah, no.
We should be looking at skill set.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And again, that's just one of the things to where I know just from having taken Philadelphia's fire test years ago, if you lived in the city, much like we do with veterans preference, you would get a set amount of points. Even Philly had it to where if you already had a fire certification or EMT certification, they had an explorers program through the one high school up there that they would kind of give you some extra points. And that was just to draw in more of the city residents.
So I'm going to ask my committee folks, all we're here to move forward are these 2 pages, the draft of Article 133. I know it was mighty confusing with all the material that we were given. What was our real purpose here? If you haven't had a chance to read it, I wouldn't want anybody to move it forward without reading it fully. However, everything that's in here is based on the third-class city code, removing things that shouldn't be in there and adding police. So removed engineers, health employees, changing firemen to, what term are we using here?
Well, firefighters. But
Firefighters.
It's both police and fire personnel,
And,
uniform
yeah.
personnel.
So I will ask you guys, do you want to move this forward to council? And if in the next couple of days there's something that you see that you want to adjust, ask questions on, before it hits the agenda, you can do so. My recommendation, after I've read it, it's pretty plain language. There's really no gotchas in here. That we get it out of committee to council with the opportunity, if you do see something in the next hour, day, couple days before it gets on the agenda, to flag it if you want to see changes. And then when we reconvene on civil service again, we'll incorporate those changes. So I'm recommending we move it forward to council. Any comments there? Fred, you don't want to get it read right now, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, yeah, before I move it, I just want to
Okay.
read through it, make sure.
I think the one thing that stands out to me, and there's really only one thing that I highlighted here, is that the commission shall consist of 3 residents of the city of Chester with a term of 4 years. We already have members on the board that don't reside in Chester, but we are going to contact them to see if they want to remain on the board. I would suggest, recommend, well, we can verify that.
At this moment in time, they all.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll check on that. If they do or don't, it won't matter. They,
So I don't even know if they know.
know what?
Board member?
Yeah, I get it. So all we're going to do is get in touch with them, let them know they are board members, see if they want to stay on the board. The terms expire either at the end of this year or next. If they do want to serve on the board, I see no reason why they can't continue on the board, but when it's time to reappoint, then we'll stick to what's in Article 133. All new appointments would have to be residents of the city of Chester. So for the existing members, if they want to continue to serve, they may, regardless of whether they live here or San Diego.
Looks pretty straightforward to me. A second.
So well, I didn't make a motion yet, but
Oh,
I know what you
no,
mean.
you made a recommendation, sorry.
But, this board can consist of as many as 6 members, as I can see it. 3 board members and then 3 alternates.
Yep. Yeah, it says, mayor and city council may appoint no more than 3 residents of the city of Chester to serve as alternate members. So it would be a total of 6.
I'm good.
All right. So like I said, we'll make a motion would anyone like to make a motion to move this out of committee and onto council? Do we have a motion? I'll make that motion. Do the second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of moving this out of committee to council?
Aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. That's what we were here to do today. Nothing else? No more?
That's all
Any
for
other
today.
questions?
Mayor Roots, Councilwoman West, Councilman Green, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Any
you.
questions, comments from people in attendance before we go? And there's no way to take public comment, I don't believe. So, thank you all. Meeting adjourned. All right, thanks, guys. I just asked if there's any questions.
Tracy, you can stop. Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome, no problem.
Have a good one.
It's not a question for me, is it?